For some of us, choosing a career feels like a massive leap into the unknown. Will you choose the right education? Work in the most promising industry? Will you find something you're passionate about while still having massive monetary upside potential of becoming a UHNWI? The reason you are dealing with these kind of questions and challenges is because of the starting point you are jumping off from. It's an average net worth starting point. What if I told you that we can benchmark directly from people that have a much more privileged starting point and apply their best practices to our career and business trajectory? Assume you are well off. You didn't manage to crack 9 figures, but you have some tens of millions to your name. At this point, especially if you have a family and kids, it's all about wealth preservation. You want to make sure the money works for itself and can be passed on to future generations further down the line. There's just one problem.
It's actually very interesting. If you look at the statistics, they say about 70% of the family wealth will be squandered by the second generation family. And by the time it hits the third generation family, about 90% of it will be lost.
When it comes to wealth preservation, we know who fucks it up typically. The next generation. So, what do? First of all, you want to shield your fortune from taxes. They can erode your wealth over the decades.
You can think of the government essentially as a corporation in the limit. The government is simply the biggest corporation with a monopoly on violence and where you have no recourse. So how much money do you want to give that entity?
Next, you make sure you instill the right mindset in the next generation. Prevent them from becoming OnlyFans celebrities or aping into GameStop stock. Lastly, and that's where we need to start taking notes, you set them up for a promising career path that provides them with purpose and prosperity. In the past, one of the ways it worked was, for example, you called some people you knew and placed your son at a prestigious PE shop so they could ride the LBO wave and get rich. You knew everyone at the PE shops because you yourself built your wealth in investment banking and helped them finance their LBOs. But these times are over, and bankers on Wall Street are earning hourly wages slightly above minimum wage. So what do rich people do today? There are only so many wealth creation opportunities in the world each decade. You can live a good life with any job you do, but you can only become truly wealthy and powerful with a limited amount of industry movements that each occur once in a lifetime. So while it does not make sense to copy Steven Schwarzman or Elon Musk and expect to become successful,
I think every moment in the history of business happens only once. The next Mark Zuckerberg won't be starting a social networking site. The next Bill Gates won't start an operating system. The next Elon Musk won't start a Tesla electric car company.
What we can do is observe market trends and macro developments, just like the class of wealthy and economically savvy people do. They read economical macro developments and adapt to it. As an example of the past, the first LBO wave started in the early 1980s with high-yield bonds, commonly called junk bonds, being an essential source of financing. It produced a wave of billionaires such as Jerome Kohlberg, Henry Kravis, or Michael Milken. In the present, there are multiple macro developments worth taking a look at. I want to focus on one development in particular that is being exploited as the career path of choice for today's generation of millionaire sons and daughters. After that, we will discuss an outlook of what other waves of wealth generation you can ride in the future.
So today, there's about 8,200 companies backed by private equity in the United States. That's twice as many companies that are listed on public exchanges in the U.S. So that gives you some sense of the relative proportion. Again, if we were to go back 20 years ago, public companies in the U.S. were 4 times as numerous as those backed by private equity. So again, I think that helps contextualize the growth.
In the past years, the trend has been accelerating that companies stay private longer. That means they are not available for the average investor to invest in. Only accredited investors, such as angel investors or funds in the VC and PE space, are able to invest in these companies. And the last couple of years have seen a lot of capital being pumped in the private markets. So much that some people think we are in a big bubble.
We are, make no mistake, well, you are, I'm out, because I sold, but you guys are in the middle of an enormous multivariate kind of Ponzi scheme.
I can't argue with the fact that valuations have certainly gone up in the last year, 2 years.
Entire firms like Tiger Global are heavily capitalizing on that trend, and rich people do so too. As a first step, have your kids start a semi-decent company. Let them hire some employees. Let them sharpen their management instincts. And once the money starts running out, which is usually the case after 6 to 12 months, let them go on a fundraising tour and raise some money, mainly from you, the rich parents. What else? Call up some of your successful buddies who run a company and have them sit on your kids' advisory board. Now, use the money to spend on Google and Facebook ads to fabricate a growth story.
Get it in there, fire it in, buy some ads, blah, 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 grow so fast, get somebody else, put some more money in, fire some ads, buy some growth, blah, blah, blah.
Don't worry about a CAC or LTV too much at this point. What matters much more is that you secure the bag. You get the next funding round in this system that is flooded with VC money. And just like that, you build a shitty startup and created optionality to sell some secondary market shares, giving you at least 7 digits to your net worth, just like your dad. Now, how do we benchmark and apply this to our own careers? If you didn't grow up in the upper class, there's a massive problem. In their work, What Makes an Entrepreneur, David Blanchflower and Andrew Oswald argue that the most common shared trait among entrepreneurs is access to financial capital, family money, an inheritance, or a pedigree and connections that allow for access to financial stability. Even the father of all startups, Paul Graham, admits in one of his famous essays,
"You don't have to grow up rich or even upper middle class to get rich as a startup founder, but few successful founders grew up desperately poor."
What can we learn from this? The number one thing that lets you take more risk and experiment as a founder is financial security.
If I had to support my family growing up instead of having the time to learn how to code, if I didn't know that I was going to be fine if Facebook didn't work out, then I wouldn't be standing up here today.
That's why for the past couple of videos, which you are invited to watch, I kept preaching that you need to build a second and third income stream as soon as possible. Not only does this give you good side income, it also gives you security to eventually quit your day job and start building a startup. Usually people take this step when their side venture generates 2x more than they make at their current job. You stop investing 40 hours per week into your job and start investing them into building an MVP, while maintaining steady income levels through your side venture. Let's zoom out. Besides the shift of private equity taking a more dominant role in a company's growth journey, what other waves of wealth generation can you ride in the future? The shift to decentralization seems to be one trend that you should be able to monetize in a big way, and I'll link to an article in the description that might give you some inspiration.
And once the EU, because I think the EU is the canary in the coal mine, although now in a Biden administration and them, rejoining the Paris Climate Accord, I think it could change meaningfully. You're going to have some massive economic incentives to get carbon neutral as quickly as possible.
Sustainability is definitely also big on the list. I personally think the first trillionaire is going to have built a company helping to solve climate change. And apart from that, I don't know, but when I find out, you'll see it on my Instagram because I'll be working on it.